back to the Sing Confidently Live Creatively podcast. Estelle here. How are you guys doing today? I hope you're doing well. I'm so excited for you guys to hear my conversation today. It's an interview with Ariel Kurtz, who is a New York City based actress, singer, and writer. She's performed at Don't Tell Mama, the Green Room 42, and the Broadway Comedy Club. And she's really passionate about authentic Jewish and disability representation in the theater world, especially. And let me tell you, this conversation is something that's going to keep you inspired and keep you going on your journey as a performer. I'm sorry if you hear a little jingling in the background. That's my bracelet. Just ignore that. Let's focus on this interview with Ariel because she is going to help you kind of see like a little behind the scenes, pull the curtain back of what it's like to be actively working and actively pursuing your dreams as a performer. And I just love to share these stories with y'all as you're on your own journeys to see that you're not alone, first of all, to see that it is possible for you to pursue the things that you love to do and find a way to do that in a city you love, like in New York City or wherever you are based. And so I hope that you feel inspired by this conversation, especially if you are a neurodivergent individual, neurodivergent actor, performer, to feel super inspired by Ariel's story and just how she encourages and, yeah, really just inspires all of us to continue on this journey as artists. You can say hi to her online at Ariel Kurtz 13 on Instagram, and you can visit her website, arielkurtz.com, for more info. And all of that is in the show notes below. So make sure that you connect with her afterwards. Whenever you get the chance to, always connect with other actors who inspire you and let them know that they're inspiring you, because it really helps all of us. It keeps us all going. All right, I hope you enjoy this conversation. And without further ado, my conversation with Ariel Kurtz. All right, everyone, I'm here with Ariel Kurtz. Hi, Ariel. How are you doing today?
Hi Estelle, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I have my coffee in hand. I added like a little cocoa powder it's called
Ooh.
Milo. It's very popular in Nigeria. I'm Nigerian, and so I added some of that to my coffee, so it's like kind of mocha vibes. But
I love that. I love
yeah,
coffee.
I was gonna ask, are you a coffee person?
Oh my God, I'm a huge coffee person. I know some people like for
Mm-hmm.
like half and half in milk purposes, like
Mm-hmm.
struggle with dairy when singing. I'm
Yeah,
weird and it doesn't affect me at all, but I need at
that's
least like one
amazing.
cup of coffee. It's the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I go and I make my coffee.
Yes, I love that dairy doesn't affect you as a singer. That's amazing.
It does not.
That's so good. Well, speaking of singing, let's get into your journey and how. So, I want to start with the question of who are you as a creative and as a performing artist, and how did you get to be where you are in this space?
Ooh, I love that question. The first part of that question is I would say I'm an actress and singer, and I also write a little bit as well. I have always been a very sensitive person, and I always found like singing was a good like outlet for me. And when I was very young, I'm a millennial, and so I was very Barney obsessed, like so many of us were. And I just was always sort of drawn to things that had singing in it, but I didn't really ever know that I like could actually sing. And I started to play the violin the summer before third grade, and then when I was in third grade I joined choir, so I just always like was sort of singing but wasn't like actually like taking voice lessons or anything like that. And then when I was 11, the summer before sixth grade, people had always told me that I should try acting because, as you can see in my face, I'm a very expressive person, and they thought that like my like enthusiasm and expressive faceness would like translate well to acting. And so I tried it, and I just really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed like the teamwork aspect of it, and it sort of just was natural for me, sort of. And so then, as a neurodivergent person, I feel like if I like something, I go like all in. So I asked my mom if I could start taking some like acting classes outside of school, and I did that. And then it just sort of snowballed from there. Next year will be my 20th year doing theater, which is sort of crazy to
Wow.
think about that I started when I was 11 and here I am at 30. And I am grateful, and I feel like I have learned a lot from doing theater. And I also have done some like short films and like TV. Like I was on a web series a couple of years ago, and so I would also like to explore that path, and voiceover and commercial as well, but I haven't done that for real yet.
That's amazing. Wow. What a journey. I love the starting so young, that which is so often the case. And with a lot of people, they start young and then they kind of like go away from it. And that's kind of where I try to fill in the gap a lot of the times with my studio and with this podcast is like reaching out to people who are trying to come back to the arts, because for me, I also grew up doing the arts and kind of went on a different path in in college. I took voice lessons for the first time, and like I had a voice minor for a few years, but I was really not doing that academically. And then after college, like I was supposed to, like I was on the medical path and I was working in healthcare and I went to med school. And then like I had this dramatic like switch up where I decided to instead go to music school. And so that whole journey of like coming back to the arts in your adult life is kind of where I am, even though I was still doing it all the while. Like it's always there, but it wasn't like honed in and I wasn't focused on it. So I really admire that you were focused and honed in from a young age and you did not get off the train. That is really powerful. I think a lot of people struggle with that feeling of like I've gotten off the train and now I have to come back, which it's totally valid and you still can come back, absolutely. But it's really cool that you were able to really stick with it during this time of like doing theater and like being in the arts throughout the last 20 years now. That's amazing. Were there, I mean, I'm sure there were, but like, can you tell us about like how you experienced those moments of like, I don't know if I can do this, that doubt that comes in, maybe even through rejection from outside, like the rejection that you faced and that opposition, maybe people were like telling you not to do it or whatever. And when you face that rejection or that opposition and even that internal self-doubt, how are you able to move past it? Because people that are listening are like, oh, I'm trying to come back to this, but I literally can't get past the fact that I'm getting rejected every which way and stuff like that. So what would you say to them?
Oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
so fair. To
Hmm.
your point about, so this isn't to answer your question, but to
Yeah.
switch, when you were saying you were a medical student and then
Hmm.
you became a, I know so many people. I have a childhood friend who like sort of similar, like she
Yeah.
was a stage manager, oh, she is a stage manager, I suppose, and she was
Mm.
obsessed with Grey's Anatomy, and she was going to go to school
Wow.
like to become a doctor, and then she like was taking like pre-med classes, and
Hmm.
then she was like, no, I miss theater, and then transferred and did stage management, and then she went to
Yeah.
law school and like is a lawyer, and she wants to work in like accessibility within the arts,
Wow.
like in the lawyer sphere. And so you're
That's
not the first
amazing.
person I know that like went away from it and came back.
Yeah.
um there's so many people like that. I
Thank
have
you.
really gotten better about who to take feedback from and who
Hmm.
to not take back feedback from. Like if somebody leaves me a mean comment on the internet that I don't know,
Mm.
am I going to be a little sad? Sure. But also, does that person have actual power in this world to
Yeah.
help me gather my career and take it farther? Maybe, maybe not, depending on who the person is. Um, yes, that has really been like a big thing for
Mm.
me, I think, is like really listening to like who I give feedback from. I have always had a very strong sense of self, and I have always been very self-aware. I also sort of think that like I look fairly relatively youthful,
Yes.
young-ish.
You definitely
Um,
have a young look, which is
yeah,
such a good thing in our
yes,
industry.
yes, like it helps.
Unfortunately, that's like,
Yeah, it's helpful in some ways and not helpful in other ways. But
oh,
yeah. Um, like let's say like I'm going out for like an early 20s role. Like I know that I'm not necessarily like the most oldest looking person there, but I always have to like I believe that I always have to at least give myself a chance. And if they think I look too young for, I don't know, their production of Mamma Mia to play Sophie, then like I'm not their Sophie, and like
yeah.
that's okay. Um, I would say I had a really hard college audition process
Mm.
that I remember. I was auditioning for both acting programs and musical theater programs. And this was at this point like 12-ish years ago. Um, And I have always sort of considered myself like an actress that sings because acting was always like my basis because I didn't really start as a singer.
Mm.
And for a long time, I never really felt like a singer. Like I knew that I can sing and enjoyed, like, I wanted to be a singer, but I never really like, not that I didn't hone in on my singing skills, it wasn't the thing that I led with. Like I felt like some people like were singers that could act, and I was sort of like the opposite.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling really sad. Um, and one thing that's nice about like regular auditions in real life is that like I feel like if I don't get something, like let's say like I do a self tape and I didn't get a call back, I feel like at least I know that somebody saw my work and like I got a chance to do things in front of people. But one thing I think is really hard about college stuff is if like you don't get into the school, like that's kind of like it for you. Um, and I had gotten into a couple, like one or two schools, I think, and I was part of a BFA program the very first semester they ever had it, and it was like not working for me, and I decided to leave, and I'm grateful that I decided to leave because it like wasn't working for me and my gut was really
Mm.
telling me that I should leave. But that was really hard, I think, because I had done so much work to get to that point to go to school, and I didn't necessarily think that it was going to play out the way it did. um and so that was hard to sort of have to like build my own curriculum, um, in that
Interesting.
way when
Yeah.
I transferred schools.
Yeah. Wow. So you like even just from like college age, like you were already or like pre-college and then into college, like dealing with the struggle of like, oh, are these people going to accept me? That kind of feeling of like rejection and stuff like opposition, I would say. But I do want to speak to your point about like distinguishing between like who to and not to receive feedback from because in this industry like you're always getting feedback and you're always getting and obviously especially if you put yourself out there online you're always going to get feedback in one way or another or even lack of feedback and that can also be hard too if you don't get any response so it's like but you really have to be so careful about who you listen to and I think that is what I really want to hone in on for listeners is like the autonomy that Ariel shows in being able to say like oh like I'm not going to listen to this I'm going to listen to this like using your autonomy as a singer as an artist as a performer to say like this is what is actually relevant for me and what's going to help me move forward that's really I think it's taking your power back and like really building you and your confidence as well so that's really good I love that yeah it's a really good point so for you now like as you've like moved kind of through your 20s and now you're in your 30s I'm in my late 20s now so I'm like getting to the 30s and I'm like I
Yeah.
want to glean all the knowledge and wisdom so like for you how have you seen your confidence as an artist kind of change from like when you were in college say like going through that whole process and then like post college and then like now when you step into an audition or when you're putting yourself out there online or when
Yeah.
you are doing anything that you're doing in the art space how have you seen your confidence change.
Um, I really try to remember that like people are rooting for me and
Mm.
that like think about the people that like do call me in for auditions and like connecting with people and sort of like positive feedback. I also started something, I don't know whether it was last year or 2 years ago, but I really try to practice singing for at least 5 minutes every day. And that
Yes.
has been so helpful
So
because if you
good.
could scroll on Instagram like 7,000 times a day, like you could do a 5 minute YouTube vocal warm up.
Thank you. Say it
Like,
louder for the people in the back.
yeah,
I've been saying this on this podcast for years.
yeah. And like sometimes
Yeah.
like that's the only time I have that day if I'm
Hmm.
running around. But one thing about me is I will not sing without warming up. Like
Yeah.
never. Like just
Period.
like never. No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Um, do sometimes I wish I had a little bit more time in the day, depending on what's going on, to do a longer warm up, sure. But if I have 5 minutes, if I'm like running between things and have to go and like I don't know babysit or something, and I have 5 minutes, 5 minutes is better than 0 minutes. So that has been really helpful. I have worked a lot with singing specifically on chest voice because um, I sort of for a long time used to mostly sing like soprano, and
Mm.
I had voice teachers in the past tell me that my chest voice didn't exist. But I'm like, that's literally not possible because everyone has a chest voice.
Mm.
And so I have really worked on like cultivating like that part of my voice over the past couple of years. And something else that I have been working on is like singing the best I can for me and the roles that I want to play. And like because I know we're similar age, I feel like we're sort of coming in age and like the big belty,
Yeah.
like the Legally Blondes and the
Hmm.
Wickeds and like the 13 the musicals, like where people were belting like high notes. And like for a long time, for some reason in my brain, I have been like, oh, like I have to sing that way, like that is the only way to sing. But I'm like, girl, that's not true. And also like I'm not an alphaba, like that's not like my voice doesn't sound like that, and like that's okay. And so really trying to work on like singing the best that I can sing for the roles that I'm right for.
Mm.
And
That's
that's
really
something that I've worked
powerful.
on.
That's really beautiful. Thank you. That really helped me actually. I really was like kind of being not mean, but a little bit critical of my voice yesterday because I was working on a song and I was just like, it was not working the way that I wanted to. So that really encouraged me, just like sing the way that, like, singing the songs that are in the way that your voice, that work for your voice for the roles that you want. So like if anyone is also dealing with like being critical of your voice or doubting your voice as well, like that's such good advice. Like focus on what your voice can do and like really developing that, and leaning into your own voice. I love that. Thank you. Okay, so I want to get into your passion that you have, for talking about neurodivergence in the theater industry, because I know that you talk about that online, which is really great, and I want everyone to like go connect with you and stuff like that. We'll do all that at the end, but can you talk about like why like speaking out about neurodivergency in, I want to say, theater, I want to say the entertainment as a whole, because it's
Yeah.
not only musical theater, only the musical theater space, but yeah, can you talk about that from your perspective?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I have two things to say. What, so neurodivergence for people that maybe don't know or have seen the term online is like a learning-based disability, and then like I also have scoliosis, which is I
Mm.
would say more of like a physical disability, I guess. And so I think about those things sort of like in tandem all the time.
Mm.
Um, I have always been talking about neurodiversity, and I'm excited that more people are like, I have ADHD and I have ADD and all these other things. So that is exciting to me. So I have something, and it's called an auditory processing disorder. And
Mm.
so my brain takes in information more slowly than a neurotypical person.
Mm.
And sometimes I struggle with pitch because of auditory processing. And so I really enjoy working with pianists like in real life. Like I feel like I really struggle like singing to tracks, which is why if I have a self-tape that is something that I know I'm gonna use. Like for example, like a lot of theaters are doing Hairspray this season, and like I would love to play Penny. And if I know that I'm going to use that tape a lot, I want it to be good. And so I would rent a room and work on the music with a piano player to make sure that it sounds good, and if there's any like weird my pitch accuracy has gotten a lot stronger since I've gotten older. But that is not something that came super like naturally to me, I guess. But also like I don't have anyone in my like immediate family that like really knew about music and like were
Mhm.
singers, so that wasn't really of help to me, even though I love my family. I'm grateful for them in other ways. Like they can't look at a piece of sheet music and be like, "Oh, that's an A." So yeah. So and then I think I'm grateful that more uh, like theaters and stuff are looking for authentic disability representation.
Yes.
And that's wonderful. I see it more in like plays than musicals,
Hmm.
which I think is interesting. And I would like to see more of it in the musical space. I mean, I want to see it everywhere, but specifically in the musical space. I didn't see Haga Dance in Ohio, but I know that all those people that were in Haga Dance in Ohio were autistic and like actually autistic, and I think like that's the way it should be. And we live in such an online world that I think it's impossible for people to say like, oh, like we couldn't find somebody thing. Like the internet is there for a reason, and if people use that as an excuse, like that's just not a valid excuse anymore. It's just not.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I love that you shared kind of like your experience. I didn't know that you had the auditory processing disorder, and I hadn't thought about that. Like, of course, like that will affect your ability to hear and then phonate on, your pitch. That could affect your phonation. But I love that you didn't let that stop you. Like that is incredible. That it's not like yeah, you see it as like, okay, that's something that I just have to work through. And you didn't see it as a barrier that you absolutely can't get past. And I think sometimes we as singers, we're like, oh, well, this is, this is happening or this is happening. And maybe it is a part of your neurodiversity, but to see it as like an opportunity to, develop and to grow and not a limitation. Like your brain, your mind is not a limitation. It's a beautiful thing, and like you have shown that so in such a cool way. So anyway, I just want to say that that's amazing. But then, okay, to talk about like neurodiversity, like representation in theater, what are your thoughts on like the local theater, like how the local theater can be, or do you do more like local theater, regional theater, or
I would say I have done a lot of like new play reading. I would sort of say like I'm sort of mostly have done like new work, and then I also like would like to do regional theater also. In tangent. That's why I'm going like this. I was just explaining this to somebody last week that I feel like I would like to continue to do like more like readings of plays and eventually musicals. And then like sort of in tandem like do regional theater. And also I enjoy a lot of like the off-Broadway stuff and would also like love to be on Broadway one day
yeah.
when when the time is right and if it's a show that I'm right for. I'm not gonna count myself out for that stuff. Um, but yeah. So sort of I mostly auditioned for regional theater and like maybe off Broadway, I would say. Um, yeah, I forgot your question. What was your
No,
question?
no, I was just asking about like for local the have you seen like
Oh,
any
yeah.
growth in like that acceptance of neurodiversity in local theater? Because and then I kind of segued or went off track because I was like, do you audition for local theater? And then okay, you do. So now
Yeah,
you would
yeah.
know.
Um,
Yeah. Have you seen things getting better or changing at all?
um, I have. I feel like sometimes, like in audition breakdowns, I'll see like character is neurodivergent, like looking for
Hmm.
neurodivergent actors, so that's positive. Um, but it's interesting to me because I feel like in general, a lot of people who do theater are neurodiverse, like in general. And I think like that's a really big reason neurodiverse people, I think it's a really big reason why I think like neurodiverse people like love theater because like it moves quickly and like there's a lot going on and like all that type of stuff. Um, I I'm hopeful that we are becoming more accepting about disability as as a society.
Hmm.
Um, and now there's a lot of like nonprofits that work with people that are disabled that do theater. I used to work for an organization. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was called the National Disability Theater, and I used to do their social media. And so I would
That's really
post
cool.
on um, their Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That has sort of been my like parallel career when while auditioning, and I would feature artists of different disabilities, and I really enjoy doing that because there's so many of out there, and I think like visibility is important. Of course, for everyone, but especially like people that like especially for disabled artists.
Yeah, I love that. Well, speaking of parallel careers, before we wrap up, I actually wanted to ask you, because you have built this, like you talk about your auditioning and being a neurodiverse actor and all that on Instagram, on social media, on TikTok and stuff like that. And so I wanted to ask, like, how have you been able to, like, because you share your life on, you share your career and stuff like that. How have you been able to balance, like, being in the actor world, like being a creative, and also building an online platform, and also, doing your parallel careers? Like, how's that been for you? And, just for anyone who's listening who might need kind of support and like, how do I do this creative thing and also live my life that I need to live and pay bills and all that?
Yes, I have so many things to say about this. One of them is I'm a really, really big believer in multiple streams of income, especially if you live in New York City. Um, that's one thing I'll say. And also, I feel like people don't really teach you about like day jobs sort of in general. I remember growing up, I always people used to always ask me like, "What's your backup plan?" And I was like, I don't know. I know that I'll need to get a job. What that job will be when I was 17, 18 years old, I was like, I don't know. I'll like work with kids. I'll work at a front desk. I always was aware that I would have to get a job outside of acting. So I know that some people also like do juggle like a full-time job and acting. That sounds like too much for me. So instead, I freelance and I babysit as well. And I know some people like pet sit, and there's like so many options. I also recognize that this job market right now is really hard, and everything right now is so expensive and crazy. I'm also a really big advocate for remote work if possible. I feel like that makes auditioning, I would say, easiest, I guess, because you can bring your computer and just do things while you wait, and then you go and you sing or you monologue or whatever, and then you continue working. I would say that if that's possible. And I think actors have so many skills that are transferable
Yeah.
to other jobs. Like, I think working as a virtual assistant is a great thing for actors to do if they have any administrative experience at all. And I wish more people talked about day job stuff because I feel like I have really had so many different day jobs, and I'm someone that I really enjoy doing lots of different things. Like I also do a lot of like freelance website updating for clients. Um, and so I enjoy doing that. I would say the more skills that you have, the more chances you have to make money at them, and that could help you grow your acting career.
Yeah. Amazing. It's just so good to hear, like, from someone who's established in their creative life and their creative career, like, what has helped you to live the life that you're able to live and do the things that you're able to do. And so, yeah, so we've talked about like neurodiversity in the arts, we talked about your career path and everything like that, your creative career path. And we talked about a little bit about like building confidence and the way what has helped you be more confident, overcome rejection and all of that stuff in the art space. So I feel so excited because I feel like people have hopefully gotten a lot of little nuggets. I know that I've gained a lot just from talking with you, but I do want to wrap up and make sure that we have enough time for people to hear how they can connect with you online and learn more about what you're doing. So before we wrap up, so my last question is like the biggest question, and the question I ask everyone who comes on the show, which is for the person listening who's like, okay, I want to go into the art space. I'm ready to come back to being creative as an adult, and I know that I need to choose who I listen to for feedback, and I know that I need to like really focus on becoming singing what works for my voice so that I can feel really confident in my voice and all the things that we discussed. But they're still struggling with, okay, I want to do this thing, and maybe they're neurodiverse and they're on the spectrum, or they have ADHD or some other learning disability, and they're just like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I genuinely don't know that I can do this, and I don't feel confident in who I am as a singer, as an artist, as a performer. What like last word of advice would you love to just share with that person who's struggling with
Wow.
that?
I also think that like you never know until you try. Also, like, I love sending cold emails and like direct messages to people. It's one of my like most favorite things to do. Like, if it is a project that I think I'm right for. Um, and I have gotten good responses from doing that from people. So I would say do that. Um, for a long time, I was a really big people pleaser, and I think because I'm sort of a uh, sort of niche, sort of, I don't know, like spirit. For a long time, I used to only listen to what I thought people wanted to be of me instead of really what I wanted. And as I've gotten older, I've really started to be like, what is it that I actually want to do? And what do I think I'm right for, regardless maybe of what one person says? And that has been helpful of like really trying to listen to myself. I have a very like strong like self-trust with
Mm.
myself. Um, and like I might not be that version of, I don't know, like I would love to play Anna in Frozen.
I
And
can see that.
thank you so much. And somebody gave me a piece of feedback once that was like who we have for Elsa, like you might like read too young. And I'm like, that's kind of fair. Like I kind of get that, but also I feel like if something is really meant for you, like it won't pass you by. But also like that's only like that wasn't an indication of my talent. It was
Mm.
just like I'm 5'1.5", and depending on who they have next to me, like sometimes that version of that show might not work, and like that's okay. I find people who believe in you and want to help you succeed. And now with Zoom and like online stuff, I feel like there's so much more of wide um, a wide search for like voice teachers even than like because you don't have to necessarily work with someone that's local to your area. You can have lessons on Zoom. And I believe that there's people that like want to help you um, and do your best work. But also I think like things take time and that like for some people like it happens really quickly and for some people like they start to book really easily out of school and then have a dry spell. For some people it takes them years and years and years. Like everyone's journey is different. um and so I would just say like every chance that you have to like show up and put your out there forward, if you can, I would say go, because it what's that thing that people always say, like it only takes one.
Yeah.
And like I'm a believer of that too. And also if you think you're right for something, like ask for that appointment, ask for that, ask to do a self tape, like because like you, and also like they need us, like people need actors to do their show, like you are solving their problem.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I have to say. Believe in
So
yourself.
good. So good. And speaking of like putting yourself out there and it only takes one. You've put yourself out there a ton online. Can you share with everyone where they can connect with you online and how they can support you?
Yes. My Instagram is Ariel Kurtz, Ariel, like the mermaid. My last name is Kurtz, Kurtz 13. On TikTok, my handle is Ariel K 1224, which is my birthday. I was born on Christmas Eve, which is a very random birthday to have.
Cute.
And then my website is www.arielkurtz.com. I'm very active on social media. I love connecting with people on social media. I also really enjoy Threads and found that there was a lot of like musical theater people on Threads, which is the same name as my Instagram. I'm very like online, so if people want to say hi to me and connect with me, they can. Um, that's like one of the cool things about I don't know, like living in this digital age is that like you post a video and someone sees it and like sort of magic can happen.
Yeah. And that's not how we met, but that's how we kind of further connected. We met in an audition
Yeah.
in New York, you guys, a couple of years ago. That's crazy. Yeah, that was a couple of years ago now.
Yes.
And here we are. We got to stay connected through social media. So yeah, you guys go
Yes.
connect with Ariel, especially if you are a neurodiverse actor, performer, singer. I think that you will really love her content and like love just like connecting with her and DM her, like ask her questions if you have
Yes.
questions or concerns about being an actor in this industry. And she's doing the work in New York, like actively doing this, and she knows what she's talking about. So definitely go ask her questions if you have any.
Can I say one more thing before we wrap?
Of course. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So this is really random, but for the listeners, I thought it was like very serendipitous that we met because there's not a lot of people named Estelle. And my mom's mom, her name was Estelle. And she passed away when I was 3. But my whole life, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, like Ariel, you remind me so much of Estelle." And she was just like a little, like spunky little lady. And there's not a lot of people, like of course, named Estelle. And so when we met and you said your name was Estelle, I thought about my grandma and how I don't know. I just thought that was like a good sign and like
Yeah.
spiritual person and like believe in those things. And so I wanted to meet and connect with an Estelle.
Yes, I love that. And our names kind of rhyme a little bit too.
Yes.
And our birthdays are 10 days apart because I'm December 14th. So,
Nice. Come on, Sag. My
yes.
mom is a Sag.
Yes, so many connections.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what can happen, you guys, when you say hi to people in the audition room. I've told you, make friends at auditions. And that's how we met. And so here we are a couple years later doing a podcast together. Yes.
And like I'm pretty friendly. I feel like if
Yes.
people like see me at Pearl, like I was at Pearl for something yesterday, and like if
Hmm.
someone wants to say hi to me, like I'll say hi back. Like I'm pretty
Yeah.
like I don't know. I'm pretty
Yeah.
like nice and chill.
Yes. Yes. Which is the best way to be. Like, be kind to everyone.
Yes, that's the other thing I would like to say
Hmm.
is that like don't talk badly about people in the hallway, don't
Hmm.
talk badly about people in the elevator. Like I always say if you have something to say, like maybe you can say it like in text form, but like don't like walk down the street and be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, like this accompanist was whatever," because we like the world is so small and I feel like I have been like in public situations and I just hear people bash other people
Mm.
and I'm like, oh my God, like you never know like who else is in here and like who knows that person. Um,
Yeah.
so that is also like fascinating and a good thing to remember.
Yeah. Just be kind.
Yes, you
All
never
as
know who
often
you're in
as
the
you can.
elevator with.
Absolutely.
So don't talk badly about them. Or like don't be
Absolutely.
rude.
So good. We got a lot of good information in here. Okay, this was a good conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed. My coffee is almost done. I hope you guys, if you're listening, you have some coffee that you're able to enjoy this interview, this conversation, and your coffee as well. And thank you so much, Ariel, for being with us. This was really fun. I felt very comfortable with this conversation today.
Yay, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode and to this show. I'm so in awe of you for being here and showing up for your creative gifts. That takes courage. Don't forget to join the performing arts community on Facebook for support and inspiration as you continue on your journey. If this episode helped or inspired you in any way, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and share it with someone. It means so much. Thank you again, and don't forget to keep singing, acting, dancing, performing, and living creatively. Talk to you next time.